Well, some of the leading lights in the men's marathon this morning. The field's not as big at the elite end of things. There's 43 starters in the men's marathon, this elite field, from 23 nations, but it does promise to be super competitive. And there are one or two names to watch here. The French and Spanish yet again are turning out in good numbers with really high caliber performers.
Representing Turkey,
well, some of the leading lights in the men's race being introduced there. Can Keegan Özbilen, the Italian there, also a major favourite, the Italian Arani. Look out for him, Arani, 29-year-old, a 2:06 performer in Valencia last December. Shakir of Spain, former Moroccan, he too will be in danger. A 2:07 performer in Valencia back on the 1st of December, the 30-year-old. And De Bock of Belgium. Watch out for him, Thomas De Bock, the 33-year-old. 2:10 he ran in Rotterdam a couple of years back. This race will have a common start for the men and women elite athletes with the masses behind there. So there will be no delay with the men going off first and the women 30 seconds or so later. All the elite athletes, both genders, lined up there on the front rank. It is a tough course. We will see that as the race unfolds. It's to me, it's a little bit like the Great North Run up in Newcastle, the big half marathon up in the northeast of England, where times come out pretty quick and there is an overall drop from start to finish, but actually there's hardly a flat metre in it. And this will be a testing marathon course this morning, believe me. Here we go.
2, 1, let's go!
They are racing then in Brussels. That elite field of 43 men gets underway, and what, just 27 in the women's marathon, Ellen. It's a small but high caliber field on the women's side.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great to see that amongst those 27 there's 16 nations represented, which, when you look, as we've mentioned, the quality of the fields across the board, it's great to have 16 different nations amongst the 46 who are here represented in the marathon, as now the masses stream through that funnel and out onto the course. It's a really tough first 13 kilometres as they climb out of the city centre, out of the capital, and head east towards Leuven. They'll be relieved to make their way out of the city centre, and we'll be looking forward to those long stretches of countryside that we travelled through today to get to Leuven and the finish line here, and some actually finding a slight sneaky way around the funnel system there.
So, the Israeli squad, very strong indeed here today. The vast majority of them former Ethiopians, but proudly sporting the white vests of their adopted nation now. And they may well be a major challenger, particularly when it comes to the team race.
Nice to see a number of the national vests in that, those 12,000 who are going just a few seconds behind the elite group. Something that will come into play a little bit more today, we've mentioned the smaller fields, and of course with 27 athletes on the women's side, split between 16 nations, is the country aspect of these races, which is something that European athletics have really tried to push. If you're in the top 25 finishers of your nation, doesn't matter whether you're an elite, doesn't matter whether you're an amateur or recreational runner, you will still then collect points that help your nation in the overall standings. And I think particularly in the marathon that will really come into play, and it's something that sums up exactly why European athletics are doing these championships, trying to get on with the boom of road running that's happening around Europe. We see it a huge amount in the UK at the minute, and it's a great opportunity for people to travel abroad, take on a new course, see some brilliant sights, and also then contribute to their nation's overall standings as well.
Well, that start line, very, very narrow, as you can see bottom of the picture, and that is to restrict the flow onto the course, and it actually takes the pressure off the course. It means that the density of runners, when they get going, cross those timing mats, is not so bad. It takes pressure off water stations, the other facilities along the course. Otherwise, you can get bunching and you get you kind of real problems logistically. As a former owner of a marathon race organiser, I know that it's very, very important to get that right. To write a picture, by the way, there, bit of an interesting story. George James from Great Britain, he's the only British athlete in this race. He's just come back from 7.5 weeks training at altitude in Bogota, Colombia. 8,500 feet he was up there, and he's forging his own path here, isn't he? Out on his own to the extreme right of picture. Not now he's moving in to shot in the pack there. 31 years old. He's a late developer. He spent most of his 20s working on super yachts, and so only able to run on treadmills and doing about 40 or 50 miles a week.
As we mentioned before, what European athletics are trying to do here, but what I absolutely love about road running, and it's you can come to it at any age, and there's so many different stories. We saw in the women's side and the men's side of things as well. Very traditional paths. You start out in school athletics, you go to the national level of school, you build your way up, you get GB or international vests as juniors and keep going up. But there are stories as he pulls on a GB vest, makes his debut.
Fabulous that we're getting pictures from deep underground at this stage of the men's front pack. Big pack too, isn't it? I don't think anybody's really dropped away yet. They shouldn't do. The first big challenge for the marathon runners today comes at around 7k, where they start hitting the biggest hill on the course, and it stretches for some 4 or 5k. They have a large up and a big up and a big down. And then it's for most of the middle of the race, there's a long gradual downhill, but it is undulating all the time. So it's not one of those courses that is easy to get into a rhythm. And here's an example of it. Just the down slope, then the flat in the tunnel, and then this up slope just upsets your rhythm. Well, Jubel Park, the gates into Jubel Park there, high above, and the athletes will be running under it by the looks of things into yet another tunnel to get out of the centre of the city. The start is, relatively speaking, very close to the centre of Brussels. They're heading due east now to Leuven, which is about 30 kilometres away. Because of all the zigzagging around and everything, the full distance is made up to 42k. Although when they get into Leuven, they do take a left and negotiate a big loop up towards the north of the city itself. Glorious, that, isn't it? Some of these pictures we're getting of Brussels, despite the drizzle and the grayness, Ellen, are magnificent. Yeah,
absolutely stunning. And the athletes currently under this point going through the tunnel. They might take this as some respite as well. As challenging as it is in terms of the hills, when they get out into the countryside and, as Tim said, go from Brussels east out to Leuven, there are some very open plains, and we saw that yesterday with a half marathon. It was very still, very sunny yesterday, and the sun then posed the challenge because there wasn't much shade. Today, very contrasting in terms of weather conditions, and the breeze has picked up, and it is quite windy. So a bit of respite before they get out here, as much as the hills, the inclines around the city centre can be challenging. They are very well sheltered as they travel out of Brussels.
You can see the massive crowds there, centre of picture, queuing up behind the start line. And with second wave, look at that, you can see the different packs going back alongside the park there in front of the Royal Palace. It's going to take a long, long time for many of those athletes to get anywhere near the start line and through the start line. They've been running for nearly 9 minutes now since the gun went. But of course, each athlete has a transponder on one of their shoes, which registers they're crossing the timing max at the start line. So they will get their own accurate start time, even though there's over 9 minutes on the clock now for the elite athletes. That's a magnificent picture. And the first time ever this has been seen in Brussels, a field of this size. The largest marathon in Belgium prior to today was around 5,500. And there's 12,500 entries for this race today, as Ellen mentioned earlier, I think. More than double the size of any previous marathon held in Belgium. It's quite fantastic. It's sort of exploding onto the European marathon scene, this race.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to see the impact on the ground. As soon as we arrived and touched down on Friday around the press conference and we got out into the streets of Brussels, great to see so many runners making the most of these brilliant park spaces that they have. It really is beautiful, and it's a great place to run, a great city to run in. And great to see so many of the runners out wearing club vests. But then also the elite athletes who had just arrived, who were going through some of their final preparations. It was brilliant to see them all mixing and running around the city and talking to a lot of the LOC, those involved with Belgium athletics. It's great. They're speaking so much about the impact that these championships are having on the ground and how it really is responding and reacting to the boom that they're seeing, like we've seen in the UK, like we're seeing around Europe and around the globe in road running, with so many people finding that they can just pull on a pair of shoes and go for a run. And something that is just great to see, and as we've said over the course of the last 2 days, that we hope will grow, these championships happening every 2 years, the next in 2027. And we've seen the uptake, haven't we? It'd be great to see them grow again in Serbia.
Yet another tunnel being negotiated by the front end of this men's field, mixed field, but the women some way back, of course, as they disappear underground. So the Israelis were expected to have a great run here today. Their strong team, almost exclusively former Ethiopians. Nothing controversial about that, because every nation nowadays has its own little, nearly every nation has a smattering of former Africans who have moved across to Europe and adopted different nations. But there's no doubt about it, 4 Israelis across the front now at this marathon with 12 and a half minutes on the clock. 5k point will come up fairly soon. There are mats, I think, every 5k. And let's have a look. Ayale is there. Gashau Ayale of Israel to the left there. He's a 28-year-old with a best of 2:04. That was in Seville in February last year. He's one of the best marathon runners in the world. He's got reasonable track form too, funnily enough. He's run 27:49 for 10,000 metres on the track, Ayale. And to the right of picture, the taller of the pair out in front is Abuhai, Yitayu Abahai, 28-year-old with the best of 2:07. So he is 3 or 4 minutes slower than 1 or 2 of his teammates, but at the front at the moment. Big pack though. Ayale, who won bronze behind Mario Tefera at the European Championships in Munich 2022. Remember that? In Munich, beautiful city in which to stage a European Championships, and they did it so well 3 years ago in Munich, utilising that Olympic stadium for the track action, which still looks futuristic. How many years after 72? How many years ago? 72, 28 and 25? What's that? 53 years ago that stadium hosted the Olympic Games, and it still looks magnificent. But yeah, that Israeli squad mustn't be underestimated. Plenty of experience in there, some good racers. The French have dominated, the French men have dominated the half marathon yesterday and the 10k earlier on this morning. And incidentally, we are going to go away from this race for a few minutes, in about 20 minutes or half an hour's time, for the presentations of the 10k. But the French squad have looked so strong at the 10k and half marathon on the men's side. And it may be Israel's day today in the marathon. Boulevin of Belgium. That's Dorian Boulevin, 27-year-old. He's a 2:13 performer, but he's up against athletes here in this pack who've run almost 10 minutes quicker, and yet he's moved to the front. And De Bock, his teammate, is there as well. They're making sure they are well represented. Thomas De Bock, who is a 2:10 performer, the 33-year-old, to the right of picture, bouncing along at the front. Which, you know, a marathon is a tough old race to get right. Sometimes you see people front run it and go on to win. Joan Benoit Samuelson in the 84 Olympics, the inaugural Olympic marathon for women, was a great example. But it's very rare that you see a leader early on come home and win a marathon.
We had an inspired performance from 2 of the Belgian representatives in the women's half marathon yesterday. A brilliant 1-2, as well as scrambled to get the early bottles. And it is a slightly complicated system, as a shrug from De Bock. He's either not sure about whether where his bottle was or whether he should have had one, but very early on in this race you can see plenty of the athletes going over and picking up the bottles that they'd left, and a fair bit of stopping and having to go backwards there.
Well, did George James there, second to right in the colours of Britain, that sort of blue vest. He missed his bottle. I was watching him carefully. That might have been why the Belgians, De Bock and Boulevard, surged to the front as they approached that drink station, and that really is just showing good experience, good knowledge. And maybe George James showing a little bit of naivety there because he was back in the pack and he struggled to get across to his table, had a good look, didn't get his bottle. Mustn't let that play on his mind there. The only British man in this marathon. There he is. Great Britain very clearly across the front of his vest. The Swede is Castell. There, he's looking strong too. Archie Castile. There you can see George James at the back to the right, not getting his bottle.
No, and neither did De Bock, who looked down at two of the tables and then looked across to his compatriot, shrugged his shoulders, and it was clear that either his bottle wasn't where he thought it would be. He may have found himself on the wrong side of the road, that the bottle spread across both sides, and it corresponds with your bib number. So it should get easier from here on in, because the bottles should always be on the same table each time at each of the fuel stops, but it's certainly a fair bit of confusion at the first.
Well, at the technical meeting a couple of days ago, it was explained to all the team managers in attendance that how the drink stations would work in the marathon, but actually those tables looked maybe a bit too close together to me. I think that was one of the problems. It is difficult. This is a big pack. They've only been running about 15 minutes at that point, and frankly, early on in the race, there's more need for the tables to be further apart than later in the race when the athletes are more spread out. And you can see Teferi and Malede from that Israeli squad just pushing the pace along, keeping it honest up in front. The first 5k this men's race, 15:41. That's not it's not super fast. 5k and 15:41, just checking what that represents in terms of a likely finishing time. And it's about 2:12 tempo, so it has been a fairly conservative start in the men's race, although, you know, both men and women have had to negotiate those underpasses, quite a few lumps and bumps already in the early stages, this first 20 minutes or so. It will pick up, I'm sure, and as we mentioned earlier, the majority of the race, probably, if you were to split the race into 5 elements, between sort of 30% in and 80% in, there's a general downslope in this marathon. The overall reduction in height is in the favour of the athletes, although it does undulate through that. Here's Tervurenlaan, part of the city to the east where there are big embassies, some other rather nice properties settled. Teferi going out aggressively here. I mean, it's very early days to be laying out your stall, but he is a 2:04 performer and he's clearly got the confidence. He's a tiny figure, he's only 5'5", 1m64, based in Haifa. Well, these gaps are appearing pretty quickly. I'm surprised, with 24 minutes on the clock, that this pack is beginning to get away. Teferi, runner-up in those European Championships in Munich 3 years ago. Richard Ringer sprinting to gold in that one. I remember commentating in a booth by the finish line, and Ringer was flying as he stormed to gold in front of the home crowd in Bavaria. But a 2:04 performer, Teferi, that takes him into a different category of performance from many athletes in this field.
Yeah, this move now really splitting the field. You can see, just if you look at the feet, the gap now to the pack behind, and Teferi turning the screws certainly, and well, only 5 behind who are able to cling on at this point. George James of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, dropping back. He's now, I think, 2 back in the pack who are trying to get connection once again as they come out through the suburbs.
Now, George James leading this chasing pack behind that leading group, bouncing along and looking strong. I wonder if it's playing on his mind that he missed his drink at that first station. They'll be not too far right now from the 10k drink station. It's probably 3 or 4 minutes away, and you've got to get it right there. Once you miss 2 consecutive personal drinks, then you can be in a little bit of trouble. And just to clarify that for those of you, the uninitiated, all these elite athletes had the opportunity yesterday to hand in 8 bottles of their own special made-up drinks, their own concoctions, and of course the strength of it changes from early in the race to late in the race. Those are handed in and refrigerated overnight and then placed at specific, the 5k tables where those drinks can be picked up by the athlete, 5, 10, 15, 20k and so on. And if you miss a drink, that's fine. You can run on and get some water. There's other water stations for the masses. But if you miss 2 in a row, then it can start not only playing on your mind, but actually be a physiological factor.
Yeah, he may benefit from the split in this field now. It was such a big group that went through that first drink station with the personal drinks at 5 kilometres. And now with the split of the field, you'd hope, and particularly with De Bock, who is trying to make his way, I think, onto the second group. He's behind the group that contains George James, but he's working hard up this climb here. They know where their bottles should be. They maybe had that time, maybe particularly in the case of De Bock, who immediately looked at his compatriot and his teammate and signalled to be, where are they? They might have had an opportunity to have a bit of a conversation and make sure when they hit the 10k drink station that they know they're in the right place.
Well, George James has been leading that second group and he's dragged them up, and they're pretty much latched onto the back of that lead group now. There you are. See the 4 at the top of the picture. They've caught up to the lead group of what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 12 together now. And then De Bock and his teammate Boulevin are back in the chasing pack. It was the third pack. Now it's the second pack. So 12 together with 29 minutes on the clock. They went through 5k in 15:41. So they'll be around 31 and a half minutes at 10k. So they're a couple of minutes from the 10k point, but still the Israelis 1, 2, 3 at the front end here, and almost seem to be taking turns, Ellen, to push the pace at the front just to keep the pressure on.
Yeah, no surprise to see that at all. They are the strong nation amongst this men's elite field. They certainly have the best numbers, and of course the best athletes, as well as the Italian veers off to one side. I think just to throw maybe some gloves or something along to the side of the road and make sure it's out the way for those who are following on behind.
There's that lead men's pack, 12 strong, with the chasing pack behind. They're approaching 10k. They're actually now almost on a sort of plateau, having negotiated a big climb up to this point. Certainly not dead flat, this marathon. This is not Chicago or Rotterdam or even London, where super fast times can be churned out. Alame it is who is leading for Israel. Haimro Alame, the 34-year-old, is a 2:06, 2:08 performer this year. That was in Houston back in January, where they had a super fast day of racing. Loads and loads of athletes from all over the world going to Houston in January in the USA and setting personal bests. He did run 2:06 in Valencia 18 months ago. Very experienced racer. Born in Ethiopia, he moved to Israel back in 2004. And here's the second pack with De Bock and Boulevin leading from the athlete wearing number 15. Just trying to check the name of that male athlete wearing 15. It is, Archie Castile of Sweden. In an unfamiliar strip, it has to be said. It's more of an orange than yellow, isn't it?
Yeah, I did wonder whether it was the pigment coming through on the cameras when we saw Sarah Larson introduced to the crowd. It's almost edging towards the German orange, and it is quite hard when you see the Germans and the Swedes side by side. The kit is so similar in terms of the colours, and of course plenty running in orange with Netherlands and Spain as well. But that is the now slightly orange and blue kit of Sweden.
Well, they're probably through 10k now, this men's field. Remember, 15:41 at 5k.
Yeah, I think the leading group went through 10k in just under 31 minutes, it looked. We'll bring you confirmation of the splits, of course, when we get them. The second pack going through.
31 exactly, actually, has just come up. 31 minutes exactly at 10k. So that's a second 5k, much quicker than the first. There it is. As you can see, George James of Great Britain, the only Brit in this race, right up there. A couple of the Turks as well, Chan and Khan Keegan Osbilen. The Israelis there in fourth, 4 of them in the top 10 through 10k. 31 minutes at 10k. That represents a winning time of, just checking, excuse me, 31 minutes at 10k, the winning time of about 2:10 and a half. So they have accelerated significantly, as I said, with that second 5k, much quicker than the first.
Now we can see George James, he does get it right this time, picks up his bottle.
Well, he obviously accelerated and got it right. He was angry. You could sense an anger and frustration in him when he missed that first drink, because he glanced round and looked back at the tables as if to say, damn, I've missed that one, what, I've got it. And he has got this one right, so thinking on his feet, that's good.
Well, it's all about the learning experience, isn't it? As we can watch back, he clearly put a spurt on there. Both hands, he wasn't going to miss that at all.
Stopping and grabbing it.
He made sure he got that exactly right. That's all about the experience of championship racing, though, isn't it? You know, this is his first Great Britain best, and he's put a lot of hard work in. 7 weeks in Colombia at altitude training, and he wants to make sure that all pays off. And it's all about getting the fine margins right.
And his story is special. He ran London Marathon in April last year. He ran 2:14 from the mass start, finished up in 13th place overall. Then he ran Frankfurt in October, and he ran 2:11. And now he's been away and trained very hard all winter, and been at altitude in Colombia at 8,500 feet.
A confirmation of the results in the 10k, the men's elite, and a new personal best for Jan Schrupp. I'm sure we'll be back to the podium presentations very shortly for the women's, where it was a brilliant performance from Nadia Battocletti, also taking a new personal best, finishing in 31:10, so a 9-second personal best for the Italian, who was well in control, and also improving her national record mark as well, record that she held, and taking 9 seconds off that too. Well, I did wonder when George James would end up back in the field. He was really hugging the near side of the road after he took his bottle on, and well, now he's alongside Teferi as they come through one of the tighter parts of the course. A look to one side, and you just want those nerves to settle, don't you, Tim? After missing that first bottle, then the adrenaline surge for having to push forward, get the second bottle, and he did that well.
There it is, George James of Great Britain still up at the front end there. One of the Israelis at the front, it's Teferi then, who's hit the front again as they pass through this village on a slight upslope. You can see Alame to the left of picture in the blue cap. Yeah, here they go, a little incline, and it peaks at the top there. Have to lean into these hills and try and maintain the rhythm and be dragged along by that pack. Interesting to see the Swede there tucked in at the back. Archie Castile hasn't shown his colours yet. He's a 2:10 performer, so still a very high calibre runner, and moving along at the moment at almost exactly 2:10 tempo, although Teferi has kicked away here down this on a downslope out of this village, and the rest of the pack not really responding, trying to maintain a more steady rhythm. Is this just a reaction to the downslope and a bit of freewheeling from Teferi, or is he actually putting in a surge here to try and get a gap on this field long before halfway? I mean, they've been running for 48 minutes, 48 and a half minutes, and I don't know if this is a proper surge from him, that he's trying to get a gap this early. It would be a very brave if it is.
He looks very relaxed, doesn't he? He's in control, and we've seen him make moves already in this race, splitting the pack at times, but no one going with him for this one. section after that short climb. He takes a brief look over his shoulder as he comes around the corner, just assessing the distance he's put between him and the 10 athletes there behind. Jostling for position as well. You can see the road's incredibly slippy. The first rain that Belgium have had in Brussels and Leuven have had in a few weeks. Well supported as well. It's great to see them as they make their way through the countryside, the suburbs on the way out of Brussels and towards Leuven. How many people have come out into the streets to support the athletes?
Absolutely, yeah. Castile maybe just struggling to stay with this pack. 11 men in front of him. One Spanish vest in there, a British vest, a couple of Turkish vests. Ferry then. Well, let's just have a closer look at this lad. He's 32 years old now, very experienced. This year he's already run 10k and a couple of half marathons in 61 and 62 minutes. He won the national championships over 15k recently in Ashkelon in 45.56, which is not super quick. They'll have gone through 15k faster than that today, I think. But he's maintaining that gap on the pack here, on this flat stretch, having negotiated that incline, that hill, the up and down, the lump in the town. Well, here we go, 15k, 45.51, and it was George James in the lead at that point. The Brit giving a good account of himself so far. I know that his teammates back in Dorking and Mo Valley Athletics Club in the Surrey Hills will be watching this with intense interest. Tucked in there is George James Malede now, up alongside Teferi. If it's not one of the Israelis, it's another. There are 5 of them in this pack of 12. Malede is a 2:07 performer in Seville, only in February, on the 23rd of February. Now, you figure that out. What is that, 7 weeks ago? I mean, that is not long ago. That's some recovery he's having to make to run well here today. The Tel Aviv-based Bukayawe Malede. I said a pack of 12. I think it was the curse for Archie Castile. He looked like he'd been hanging on, didn't he, and for the previous 10 minutes or so. And now I think the Swede is just having to ease back and let them go. And that's frustrating. But he is a 2:10 performer. Nearly all those fellas in front of him have run some minutes quicker.
Yeah, you can see the gap closing once again back to the front two now. And I think it's just that turn of pace. Takes them a while to react, but they do just ease back into it and close the gap incrementally. Well, I noticed in the men's race that the bikes were getting a little bit close. That was in the men's 10,000 metres. It was one of the Turkish athletes just had to put his arm out and just sort of palm away one of the bikes. It didn't look like they were getting too close on that occasion. I wonder whether it is something to do with her saying, you don't want to be with us, the leaders out there, and just trying to maybe take a bit of the pressure off it. It comes with its highs and its lows, doesn't it, competing on home soil. We've seen so many athletes, we've heard it spoken about with a number of those who performed so well on the women's side of things in the half marathon yesterday. Some love racing on home soil, but it does create a bit of pressure as well. And Hannah Verbruggen, who was there at the press conference and has been put out as the best hope for Belgium in this race, maybe just trying to stay away from the limelight in the race.
Well, we saw Malede out in the lead. He's pushed on ahead. I said earlier, if it's not one Israeli, it's another. Bukayawe Malede of Israel has taken to the front now. It's almost like there are these waves of punches coming in. If it was boxing, it would be wave after wave of thumps coming in. So it's not one Israeli, it's another that goes to the front and just accelerates. It's almost a surging type of race going on at the moment. The 28-year-old Malede is a 2:07 performer. His teammate Teferi has dropped back into second place, and this is quite some surge from Malede. 59 minutes on the clock. They're still, 3 or 4 minutes away at least from the halfway split, and this is another slight upslope. I said earlier how the middle of the race is an awful lot of ups and downs, even though overall there's a net drop, and it's making it tough for these fellas. It's a very, very testing course, and this hill is thinning them out. You can see George James in a pack about 30 metres down. And I wonder if this is a reaction to Maleide's surge, or if it's because of this hill. There's almost like a sort of seesawing, a concertinaing of this top 10 or 15.
Yeah, it has been for the last probably 7-8 kilometres now. There's occasionally a surge. It's usually one of the top two Israeli athletes who takes it on, will push forward, sometimes after a climb, put in some distance, and then it takes the pack a little bit of a time to recover. They start to grow in confidence, close the gap a little bit, and then it opens up again as they come through another bottle station. But Maleide not looking like he's going to surge through either side, and behind him though you can see the packs split to make sure they reach the right table at the right time.
Yeah, so important for these fellas to get their drinks okay. And number 14 getting his drink just fine, Thomas de Bock of Belgium. 24 there, tucked in behind him.
Not taking any chances though, again, George
No,
James.
not.
Both hands, once again, almost coming to a full stop, grabbing the bottle with both hands.
In the black there to the right, that's Hussein Chan of Turkey, who got his bottle okay. Yeah, I mean, George James is dead right. It's woken him up, hasn't it, to get these drink stations right.
Chan also taking on some... just one of the cups of water that's being handed out by the volunteers at either side of the road. The elite athletes are allowed to use the fuel stations, anything on offer for the mass start participants as well.
They should be coming to the 20k timing match very soon. Remember, they went through 15k in 45.51, so they probably have passed the 20k points already. We're just waiting for those times to come through. Back in the for the masses, with what, 61, nearly 62 minutes on the clock since the elite got underway. Who knows when all these people started, how long it took them to get over the line.
Well, particularly with the funnel system, it does take a little bit more time. You can see one of the pacers there, the big flags strapped to their backs there to help all the mass start participants if they're going for any specific time goals.
But Maleide looking very, very strong, I have to say. It does look good, but that can mean relatively little. You know, they say one old adage about marathon running is that the halfway point is at 20 miles with a 26. That might not sound very logical, but actually, in terms of effort, it says a great deal. So, for argument's sake, you can say the halfway point in a 42-kilometre race is 30k, because, frankly, that is when you really find out your mettle. You find out your ability to handle the full marathon distance. I think it's not exactly right, but you can say anyone can run 30k, okay? It's how you handle those last 12k that really decides your calibre.
Yeah, something that George James was speaking about in the interviews that he's done before this race, saying that his race starts at 18 miles. And it was one of the things that I was watching for when he was going to either side of the road, whether he was surging ahead, is just keeping that cool head. He knows that his time to shine will be when he hits the 18-mile point, whether you're an elite runner, whether you run recreationally and you've done a marathon. You know that when you hit that 18-mile point or the 20-mile point, something between those two, that is where it really gets hard as they now approach the 21-kilometre mark.
Yeah, the half marathon point coming up, 21k there in 63.36. So he's going to be around 64 minutes at the halfway point as Maleide, and this is a significant and aggressive move from him, I have to say. At 21k, it's not the halfway point. Remember, they've got to do another 98 yards or something like that, so it'll be just around this bend will be the halfway point. But it's significant enough. 63.36 for the lead at Maleide, and that means he is going to go through in about 64. Here are the timing mats across the road. You see those? Those are transponders, electronic chips in those shoes will record their half marathon time, and they go through in 64.15. That second pack. This pack about 5 seconds ahead. And we will get those splits for you as soon as we can. The time for Maleide out in front, 60.48 at 20k. That means he's covered that last 5k in 14.57 after a 14.51 third 5k split. He had another glorious chateau tucked away in the countryside. Some of these places, you know, we've never seen in our lives before, and yet they are quite magnificent.
It is really spectacular.
The castle of Leafdal. I've never heard of it, with all due respect, and yet look how beautiful it is. Is that a bit like your place?
I wish. No, it is stunning, isn't it? And these are the nice little distractions that when the athletes are going through, take a look to one side and be able to pick out. Now on board with the Spaniard, who's further up this climb, this incline, to the front of the men's race with 67 minutes on the clock.
Yes, Malede chasing that lead car. Passed through halfway. 60.48 at 20k, and the halfway split, just waiting for that to come through. In fact, it hasn't appeared yet in our system, but it will have been at 20k, so it'll have been around 64 minutes for Malede. 63.36 at 21k. And Özbilen maintaining the chase here in this second group behind Malede, the breakaway leader at the moment. The third group, there it is at halfway. 63.52 is the official halfway split for Malede. But look at the gap he's got there, 15 seconds. Back to the Özbilen pairing, and then Alame, Awani, Ayale. So many Israelis up there. They've got the team race sewn up at the moment, that's for sure. It's all about what happens over that last few hundred metres in a marathon, the last 1%. Single file though, and that tells me that they really are shifting here and working hard. Here's another of the Turks. Which Özbilen? I can't tell because they're both Özbilen surname, and that's all they've got on their bibs.
I think that is Kaan Keegan Özbilen, who's actually the faster of the pair with
He's the better known, isn't he?
Yeah, 2:04, and that's the national record of Turkey. And further forward, I did spot, we're looking out for the tiny little 8. It's a lot easier to see on the back, but I believe Ilham Tani Özbilen is wearing the bigger 8 on his back.
There's the Belgian pairing with George James and Can of Turkey as well, that quartet.
It wasn't short. If it's just a clip of a hill, it's usually just a tap of the shoulder, a quick sorry, then they move on as Malede goes through the 25-kilometre mark.
Yeah, and he's still got that good lead, hasn't he? And this pack just biding their time. I mean, I suspect several of them could have gone with him if they'd wanted to, but they're just keeping their powder dry. They realise that there's an awful lot of racing to do, an awful lot of road to pass under their feet as yet. This is the second pack. Ayali is there. Özbilen as well. No sign of George James. There he is in the background, back in about the fourth pack effectively. It's breaking up a fair old bit. None of these fellas are so far back that you can write them off yet. I mean, if you're 10 or 15 seconds back, that is not a write-off distance. Although that lead being built up here by Malede, wearing 13 ironically, is beginning to look pretty impressive.
And amongst that top 5, Maru Tufeli is not there. He's fallen well off the back of this group, the national record holder, and he's at risk now. You can see him. I think that's him with the orange shoes, and it was swinging between him, the lead, and Malede, who's now well out front. He's significantly dropped off the pace here.
Well, there is George James of Britain, who's just a little way back now, but not so far back that we need to really worry. I suspect if he has said that his race begins at 18 miles, and there's Malede losing 2 or 3 seconds, making sure he gets his bottle. And while some people will go, well, that's just careless, that's ridiculous, that's silly, of course, it is so important. Now we're getting into the second half of this race, we're getting to the meat of this race, effectively. So important to get your drinks right, get your bottles right. And Bukiyawe Malede gets his drink. He has the time to, doesn't he? He's built up that cushion behind him to have that luxury of stopping, going back, grabbing a bottle and moving on and getting back into his running.
Certainly a fair burst of adrenaline, I'd imagine, though, as he took a look over the shoulder just to see where the chase quartet now are. Before moving along nicely. Headed up by Özbilen still of Turkey.
Now, what's that lead? 60 metres, 70 metres, something like
easily.
that? And another little upslope here. Do you know, it's just what the profile suggested, funnily enough. When you look at the race side on the course, the 42K, there's so many undulations. It rumbles along like a bumpy road, and in reality, when you get down onto the race situation, it means lots of ups and downs, and it's hard to contend with because you're continually easing back a bit, leaning back on the downhills and leaning in forwards into the uphills. That's interesting, and that would have been good words from the chief referee if that was the case, because you don't want to be running in a crowded pack of athletes you're not actually racing against. This is a championship, a continental championship final, and it's not ideal, is it, that you've got such a big pack? I mean, of course, we're familiar with it in races where there are no pacemakers like New York and Boston and so on. The lead women put up with that, but this is a championship race with medals at stake, and so that was a good spot, Ellen. I hope that is what he said to those fellas, and it's funny enough they are all tucked in behind those women now, not interfering with them from the side or in front of them.
It did just make me think when I saw the chief referee on the bike alongside them. He's just ahead of the lead women, and he did slow down, pull alongside them, and he was talking to the pack, and now they have sat back. We did mention earlier, Tim, whether they would go ahead and try and help out, take on some of the work, but they have sat back. And that is different from the case through the first 10K. Still waiting on the 20-kilometre sprints from the women, who should now. Well, they're definitely through that point. We saw them go through the water point at 20K. We have some issues with the split times, and we will bring them as soon as we can.
Malede has built up a lead here, which is more and more impressive. That gap, what, about 60 or 70 metres? It's still closable. That sort of psychological elastic band between the leader and that pack of four chasing hard is stretched, but it's not yet snapping distance. For it to be snapping distance, it needs to be 100, 150 metres, I think, and then he can relax and focus upon his own efforts a little bit more. Teferi from Abu Hay, 1 and 2 in this European Running Championship inaugural marathon event. Of course, there have been plenty of European Championship marathons over the years, some great champions too. But this is turning into a race for the ages, and very hard to predict.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Teferi at all has been able to close that gap. He's fallen off the back of this group of four. He was ahead of them for a significant part of the course. One of them who made the early surges out of the four Israelis who have been taking turns off the front. We'll try and get some shots of that lead car, which does have the time on it. We are, of course, missing the clock. But when we're back with the leader, we can take a look up. We're around 22, almost 23 minutes into the race. This is the view from the back of the lead car.
1 hour, 22 minutes.
Yeah, sorry. This is the problem with not having a clock. But yes, of course, 1 hour, 22 minutes. Time's flying, Tim.
It is flying, and so is this fella, Malede. Buki Yahweh Malede, 28 years old. Is he on the way to glory? 1 hour, 23 minutes on the clock. He's still got a lot of running to do. Some 45 minutes or so of running to go, and maybe more. The last European champion in the men's marathon was Richard Ringer on the streets of Munich, of course, back in 2022. He won in 2:10 in front of the home crowd. That was on the 15th of August 2022 in the heat of the summer. Today, very different. Actually, lovely marathon running conditions. Overcast, slight dampness in the air. It's around 13, 14 degrees, just about perfect for marathon running. Prior to Richard Ringer, the European marathon champion was in Berlin 2018, was Koen Nert of Belgium, funnily enough. And before that, it was a half marathon held in 2016 in Amsterdam, where Tadessa Abraham of Switzerland took gold. But men's marathon champions over the years, well, there's included some big names. Miyuki of Italy back in 2014 and 2010 on the streets of Barcelona. Victor Rothlin of Switzerland. Stefano Baldini in 2006 took the title for Italy in Gothenburg, and so on further back. There are some Jolando Bourdin taking a couple of titles, and Martin Fizz taking the 1994 title. Some great legends of the marathon world. 26k just gone by. That was about 1:24:30 for the leader. 1:24:30 at 26k. Take 3 minutes off that, so he'd have been about 1:21:30 at 25k, give or take. We're still waiting for that split to come through. We are being told that one or two issues with the timing, maybe a little bit of the rain getting into the works.
Yeah, this angle might be slightly deceptive, but it does look like they're reeling in.
Oh, you're right.
Slightly, and he did take a look over the shoulder, and if you just look at the cadence, he's slowed down in comparison to the speed, the pace that he was travelling with where he made that first attack. And a gap was around, as you said, Tim, around 60-70 metres, and that has closed significantly.
Oh, you're spot on. 30 metres at the most, 25 metres, and they're gaining with every stride. His stride length there, bottom of picture, has reduced dramatically. It's the length of each stride, probably 5 centimetres less than it was a few minutes ago, and he's struggling and stretched back along the road from the leader to, you can see top right of picture, George James in a pack of, I think, 3, maybe still with Depok of Belgium. It's about 140 metres, something like that, covering the first 12 or 14. Well, this lead pack moving well, hunting down the long-time leader, Malede, and he's now been caught, I think, Malede. That's him at the back of the group. But still 3 Israeli vests in this quintet. And the Italian that's up there moving so well, Ilyas Awani, he's a 2:06 performer. Haven't really talked about him very much at all, have we, Awani? 4 times the national champion for Italy at 10,000 metres. Malede then. That slapping of the feet on the road suggests fatigue to me. That's Teferi. He's a little way back.
But I do wonder whether Malede being absorbed by this group gives him a bit of confidence that he can make his way forward as well. Certainly not completely out of reach at this point. That gap hasn't really opened up too much from him to the lead group now of 5.
4 Ethiopian vests in the top 6, can you believe? Wonderful packing. They prepared superbly for this. There is Salpeta, just going about her race steadily and not expending any more energy than she needs to.
Ayali taking a look to one side as he comes round this corner, leading the way. They've absorbed Malede now, and he's, I think, fallen potentially even off the back. And it's not the chase group, he's still in that group. This is bib number 1, Malik Teferi, who did have a lead spell off the front, the national record holder for Israel, personal best of 2:04:44. And he's got some work to do to reconnect with this group. The Italian, like you said, Tim, has been tucked in there, and he hasn't really taken any turns on the front. He's run this in quite clever fashion. I think he's being invited to take a turn at the front, the only one out of that group who hasn't really come to the front.
And you know that he's entitled to do that. I mean, some people say, well, you've got to contribute to the race. No, you haven't. You just sit in there and get the best result for yourself. You know, Steve Ovett was renowned as one of the great middle distance waiters, so to speak. He just kicked past people at the end and annoy them so much because he seldom contributed to the race up at the front end, but he didn't need to. It's all about who crosses the line first. Times are of secondary importance, a distant secondary importance. But they're all looking around at each other a lot here now, Alan, and there's 1 hour 31 on the clock, and I just wonder if it's not a case of them beginning to play a cat and mouse game here. Nobody prepared to take it on here as we go into the last quarter of the race. They've done a lot of work, and if they're not careful, those behind who are just steaming along and maintaining a steady tempo, not looking around, will close on them. And you can see George James actually that back there, what, in about 7th or 8th place, trying to cross the gap up towards this group. Ilham Tanui Özbilen, former world and European indoor 1500 metre medalist who has ownership of a 2:08 best for the marathon distance. And that is the world we live in now, where 1500 metre runners can be world-class marathon runners. It's a lot of it's down to shoe technology, a lot of it's down to changes in training knowledge and practices in lifestyle. More sleep during the day, more time spent training away in warm weather and at altitude. Lots of little incremental factors adding to this greater range that so many of these athletes can boast, from middle distance up to the marathon. It was more or less unheard of 20, 30 years ago and in the modern history of long distance running.
Yeah, it was interesting listening to Hannah Irwin of Great Britain speak in the build-up to this race. She actually went in or this weekend even, I should say, she went in the half marathon yesterday, and she said that there's so much pressure. She feels the pressure to perform so well in the 5K in particular, but we have athletes amongst this, those on the start list this weekend who are steeplechasers who practice much more over the shorter distances. She said she actually prefers just coming out and racing on the road over the half marathon distance, over the 10K. She feels that there's not as much pressure on it. She's not too focused on certain time blocks that are real weights on her in the other parts of her racing. And I think it's a really interesting point that coming into this, some of the athletes feeling a lot more relaxed. This is of course something that is very new, as well as the inaugural running championships that European Athletics have hosted, as our lead group of men take on some more fuel. Özbilen just having a word with Ayani as he takes on a gel. And
well, Ayani, I've not seen him before. I don't think he's raced in any of the marathons I've covered in the past. That black headband makes him look, makes him stand out, as there's no doubt about that. So here's that pack now leaning into another upslope. 4 Israeli vests in the top 6. They look to me like they're running harder now after a strange minute or two where they were just looking around at each other. Nobody really prepared to commit and push on. There's the men at 30k, 1:30.55. We'll bring you that 25k sprint as soon as we can. You can see George James is, 26 seconds down at 30k. And that 1:30.55 clocking was nearly 4 minutes ago now. So that's a pretty much up-to-date situation.
The gap's closing. It's Malade who's gone one way, Teferi's gone the other. So Teferi is now back amongst the group. They've done a swap, the Israelis, and Malade, who was off the front, is now off the back, in the same way that Teferi was off the front. He was off the back and now he's in the pack. They're just switching around. But you do feel that's a better timing when you look at the positioning we are around this race and in this course, that Teferi is reconnected with the group in the same time that Malade's going backwards.
Yeah, does look like we're down to 5 now, and we're getting into the meat end of this race, the last 10k. And Ayale beginning to push on. The 28-year-old is a 2:04 performer at his absolute best. 3rd in those European Championships in Munich back in 2022. He knows about championship racing. Last summer in Rome in the half marathon championships in the Italian capital, he was 7th, just outside the medals. So a consistent championship performer is Gashau Ayale. Experience too. Not bad on the track. Not a particularly fast 5,000 time, but a good strong 10,000 metre time. He's run 27:49. And I like to see that. I like to see athletes in distance running and on marathon racing who've gone through the gears of a career. They've earned their colours, so to speak, on the track, up through 1,500, maybe 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, and then move on to the roads and nail half marathon and marathon. And Ayale has done that journey. He's done his apprenticeship, and now he's at the front when this race is reaching a significant climax through the streets on the southern side of Leuven, and then they head out north, so they'll sort of almost kiss the city centre and then head out away north again. before taking a sharp U-turn with just about 3 kilometres to go and heading back down to the finish line near our commentary box here. But this is a surge from Ayali, Ellen. It's always clear when they slip in behind each other and start slipstreaming in single file that there's been a little cranking up of the tempo.
I think they were expecting it. The pack scattered across the road. They were waiting for someone to go, and it is Ayali's picked it up to Ferry. Tucked in behind, wearing bib number 1. The national record holder of Israel, the fastest amongst the Israeli contingent, as once again the pack just splitting to either side of the road, and you can see the damage it's done. Malado well off the back. He cannot match this, and that's him now completely out the battle, you have to say. Said anything can happen this weekend.
Back to these men. They're on about 2:7:30 tempo, by the way. That's a 30k split, 1:30.55. Has them on schedule for about 2:07:30, certainly under 2:08 by my reckoning, by my charts. And Awani of Italy just tucked in behind Alame here, matching him stride for stride as they zigzag through these long sweeps through the city centre. Beautiful city centre too, isn't it? And today we really can go downtown after this commentary and sample a cup of the local coffee or tea or whatever you fancy.
Well, if you want to sit in the rain, Tim, be my guest. But no, the conditions certainly...
It's not raining, woman. You're so pessimistic.
I can see a little bit of rain. There's certainly darker cloud coverage, but I'm sure that the men would prefer to be racing in these conditions than those of the latter stages to what we saw yesterday.
Look at the crowds here around the cathedral. Quite fabulous. The support this city have brought out, and indeed the surround probably includes the capital, Brussels, 30 kilometres or so away, about 24, 25 miles away. Really good to see these numbers. And the course is wonderfully laid out. You have to say to the organisers, a massive slap on the back. Marko Vlasic has been the man, the mastermind behind these inaugural European Running Championships, and what a great job he and his team have done. Teferi, Alame, Ayali, 3 out of 5 are Israeli vests here. Could they get 1, 2, 3? That would be almost unthinkable, wouldn't it? Özbilen is there in the colours of Turkey. That's Ilham Tanui Özbilen, I think it is, who's up there at the front in this quintet. Now, what are the gaps going on behind? We haven't seen action behind for quite some time. Bottom right of your picture, nobody else yet in view, and that's a big gap. That's 150 metres, I reckon, back to the chasers, just going under that crane, bottom right of picture. That's a big gap. I don't think we're going to see anybody close that gap now in these last 6 or 8 kilometres. 1 hour 42 on the clock. We've got about 25 minutes of running to come. And this is where racing now comes into play, Ellen. You know, getting it right, making those judgment calls right, surging at the right times, biding your time perhaps, letting others be proactive and responding to them, and effectively keeping your cards up your sleeve. You know, don't show your hand too early. Yeah, absolutely. When, like we saw just a few kilometres ago, they were coming through the streets, weaving through the streets. They were looking to each side, seeing who would take what line, whether someone would try and take a surge off the front of the pack, and it has got a little bit cagey. We're seeing them quite happily roll on together, particularly when someone's off the front. Well, it's the blue and the white of Italy and Israel at the moment, and the red of Turkey. Red, white and blue. So many European flags have got those colours, but here we have 3 separate countries represented, but the Israelis dominating, and the team race is all but sewn up, barring disaster, for Israel here. 3 former Ethiopians running for Israel and putting out a fabulous performance as a group. In fact, I think all 5 of them are in the top 10 at this stage. But Awani of Italy, for my money, is the man who's kept his powder the driest. Hasn't really given anything away. He's not a world-class track runner. He's run 13:28 for 5,000, 27:45 for 10,000, but when you think that's well over a minute outside what the best are running these days. He's only got a 61:30 half marathon personal best, but he is a great marathon racer. It's a very specific event you need to get right, and that's like the days of old when great champions in London and some of the other big marathons would win in fast times. And you looked at their personal bests in the half marathon and it was nothing special. But Awani of Italy is a 2:06 performer, and he's turning into quite a package here. The brewery, just another of the breweries for which Leuven is famous. It's a wonder anybody can walk in a straight line around here, isn't it, when there's so much beer being brewed in the locality? They're probably breathing in the fumes most of the week, and then of course they have to pop out in the evenings and have a sampling.
Well, Awani here's a really interesting case. He keeps looking from side to side. He's looking around. He's never looking forward, really, every time you glance up at him. And I wonder whether the pace has slowed here. It'd be really interesting to see the next few splits, because he keeps ending up at the front, and he clearly doesn't want to be there. He then drops back, and it does look like this has got slightly more pedestrian now.
Well, you say that. I can't remember him being at the front like this before.
He doesn't
now.
want to be. Each time he finds himself there, he looks around, and I think he maybe at this point has accepted that he's going to be forced to do a turn here. Really doesn't want to be there. He was on the wider parts of the course. He was veering off to one side. Of course, the men now confined to just the side of the road. You can see the cones there. He really does not want to be at the front. Yeah, the pace hasn't changed. So that's the same point that they were at before the 25-kilometre mark. So they're holding the pace well.
1:46.41 for the men at 35k. 7k to go. Still these five locked together. We've seen no attack from anybody behind. I don't think there's going to be any latecomers here. George James may well finish in the top 10 for Great Britain. We haven't seen him for a long time. It would be nice to see those athletes back between 6th and 10th or 12th. But we're focusing upon this battle up front, the battle for the medals, with a distinct possibility of Israeli 1, 2, 3. Although I have to say, Awani is looking very, very strong. He was only 19th in European Championships Marathon back in 2022 in Munich. He was 9th in Barcelona in a national record on that 2:7:16 in March 2023. Then he was 7th in New York in November 23. Last year he dropped out of Osaka, was 4th in Barcelona in March in 2:08, and 15th in Valencia in 2:06 with that new personal best last December. So he's been gradually improving, Awani. Had his bad days, like that DNF in Osaka in February last year. But this, his third marathon in, 13 months. And so far, he's getting it very right. He looks as cool as a cucumber. Big fella, too. I mean, he's really powerfully built, Awani. And yet he's looks to be coasting along here quite comfortably. Fascinating climax to this marathon coming up. And here we can see the chasers in this men's marathon. This is the U-turn at the northernmost point of this marathon course to the north of Leuven city centre. There's George James in isolation. Very tough, this, running on your own through the last few kilometres. That lead pack, of course, have got athletes around them. There's De Bock. He's had a great race in the top 10, well in the top 10, Thomas De Bock, the 33-year-old, using all his racing now. So there's Dorian Boulevin of Belgium, his teammate, not too far back. And at 30k, yeah, just checking those athletes, De Bock and Boulevin up there in the top 12. There's Osbilen, Khan Keegan Osbilen. And just looking, is that Pinto, Rui Pinto of Portugal, back in about 14th or 15th place. So alongside the canal there, the Vaart that links Leuven with Antwerp in the far north, Mechelen sort of halfway between Leuven and Antwerp, and they are heading south now, and it's a long straight stretch back towards the city centre with 1 hour 52 on the clock. They've got about 15 minutes of running to go. And there's the five. They've been inseparable for a long time now.
you can throw a blanket over them, and you have been able to for the majority of this race. They've changed it in the personnel at times, with some going off the front, going back, going off the front and back. But it has been this main structure, and now forced into leading the way is Awani. Just continues to look around, and they are moving well though. They're holding good pace as we go back to the women's race. The same quartet.
The marathon this morning starting in Brussels, finishing in Leuven. Yesterday they had the half marathon. Earlier on this morning, the 10K, all here in Leuven. And the gap's appearing now. And this is Ilan Tanui Osbilen. And he's just dropped back. And that means we're down to 4. And it's 3 Israeli vests. Osbilen is struggling. And to let go with 1 hour 55 on the clock, almost 1 hour 56 at this stage, he's got to be really suffering. And in the background, there's a foreshortening effect. But you can see a couple of vests further back. Look, you can see Osbilen there, right of picture in the red vest. But just out of shot to the right of picture, there's the Spanish vest, and there's George James of Great Britain. The Spanish vest is Ibrahim Chakir. He's having a fabulous run. He's up in the top 6 or 7. George James, I think at the moment, is back in about 8th. There's 4 going through. Osbilen there, losing ground all the time in the red of Turkey in the background.
Yeah, his personal best well behind the likes of this field. You look at Awani as an example, and he's well over 90 seconds behind his personal best. Heading towards 2 minutes, and I think he did so well to compete for so long.
Well, Teferi looks good, doesn't it? Gets that water, doesn't like it, grabs another one, pours it over his head. And another cup of water over his head. He's feeling the heat here. It's not a warm day, thank goodness. This is not like yesterday. And the local time here in Belgium, 10 past 12. Yesterday it would have been about 22 degrees or something by now. At the moment here in Leuven, the temperature is a far more friendly, user-friendly 16 degrees centigrade. Pretty much perfect for distance running, but they're feeling the pressure, all these 4 men. And it's a decision time now. Awani's still looking very cool, Ellen, in those Italian blue, because he glanced across there, just sizing up the Israelis around him. 1 against 3.
It's really interesting to watch the contrast between him and how he's approaching this, potentially from a mental point of view, the tactical point of view, maybe the way he just continues to look around. He's not afraid to show as well that he's looking around, whereas that might be something that other athletes might see as a bit of a weakness if you're looking around over your shoulders, seeing what's going on. But I think he's doing it from a place of confidence. You look at the history books, the Italians have done incredibly well in this race over the years in the European Championship. 7 previous winners, and quite happy sitting there, second place at the moment, looking to make that 8.
Yeah, those 7 previous winners for Italian men over the years. Giolando Bordin lifting consecutive titles in 1986 and 1990, and then Stefano Baldini winning in 1998. He won again in 2006. In between, it was Janne Holman of Finland taking gold in 2002. Remember, that was in Munich. Victor Rotlin taking gold in Barcelona in 2010. The Italian Daniele Maiucchi were taking gold in 2014 on the streets of Zurich. They've got a fabulous record of real consistency, the Italians, in championship marathon racing. Remember, Baldini became Olympic champion in Athens 2004. Can Awani make it yet another gold for the Italian blue? Speak of the boys moving, Teferi still at the front end. All 4 of them looking pretty good at the moment. None of them look like they're struggling. They're building for a wonderful climax here. You can see George James right in the middle of the picture there in the background. He's still up there at the 4, 5, 6. I think he might be in 7th place, George James of Great Britain. 6th is the Spaniard, and he's going well still. Just checking who that is in this men's race. I think it's Ibrahim Chakir. In fact, he's the only Spaniard in the field, so it is Ibrahim Chakir. He's back in, 6th? George James of Great Britain back in 7th place, having a fabulous run at the moment. Ilham Tanui Ozbilen back in the red there, right of picture in 5th place, and he's being gradually reeled in. And I wonder if there isn't a bit of a charge on from one of those two behind. Looked to me like George James might be catching Chakir, moving from 7th to 6th. As Awani looks very smooth indeed, doesn't he? He's just cruising along. All these 4 men, I mean, it's impossible to guess who's going to go best here. They're crossing a mat here. This must be the 40k mat, I'm thinking. They've got 2k to go, 2.2k to go, 2:02:30 there or thereabouts when they cross that point.
Well, just coming around in front of the train station, and now George James up into 6th, moved around the outside of the Spaniards, and going at this pace, probably looking around 2:08 maybe, and it looks like if he can keep this rolling forward, a big personal best, you'd be looking around 3 minutes for George James with the run he's put down. And he has, he had his struggles at the start of the race, missing out his bottle, but he's been going exceptionally well after that, just running his own race, keeping his focus, and no doubt, as we're well into the closing stages here, he'll be rewarded with a big personal best for his efforts.
Well, the Belgian pairing, Boulevard and De Bock, have been locked together for most of the race. Pinto in the background for Portugal. Not the great Antonio Pinto, 3 times a winner of London. He was a European champion at 10,000 metres as well on the track. A different Pinto, but the same nation. He's having a fabulous run. 40k, 2:02:26 in actual fact for these fellas. And Awani at the front yet again, the 3 Israelis watching him carefully. 3 medals there are, but 4 athletes, and 4 doesn't go into 3, not in whole numbers. Somebody's going to be unlucky here. Who's it going to be? Can Israel get an unprecedented 1, 2, 3 here? Actually, I say unprecedented, I'm wrong. I'm just suddenly thinking of Helsinki 94, where Spain took 1, 2, 3 in the Olympic Stadium in Helsinki. That was super special. Long time ago now, but it's the memory sits in my mind well when I think back to the pictures. The winner went down on his knees and greeted his 2 teammates who came through in 2nd and 3rd in Helsinki 94. Spain are 1, 2, 3. Could Israel repeat that today? They never had a champion before, Israel, in the marathon.
Well, to go from never having a champion to packing out the podium would be an incredible feat, but Awani is in there and looking very comfortable indeed. He has everyone's card marked. He continues to look around, just make sure he knows exactly where each of the 3 men around him are, and is looking very comfortable. He has done since the gun. He's been moving so well, and as we said, Italians having a great record in this competition, and having a brilliant weekend so far as well. They've come out in their numbers, speaking to the coaches going into this weekend. They came over with a lot of confidence as well. They've trained with this in mind, as we see the university library, the library that was built back up brick by brick after being destroyed in World War II, and is one of the real, the proud parts of this city. Whenever you speak to anyone who's involved with the council, with the local organising committee here, it's always the thing that they say you have to go and see it if you're in Leuven. So much history there, and a real signal of pride.
Still 4 men there. Teferi at the back of the group, and as he's struggling now, wearing number 1, the blue vest, the black headband of Awani. Bit of a fashion guru he could become if he were to take gold here today, the 29-year-old. So Teferi may be the man who misses out here. He's struggling. It may not be a 1, 2, 3 for Israel here today. as 3 men move away from him, and this has to be desperate for Teferi. How tired have you got to be with a couple of minutes of running to go to see 3 competitors ease away from you centimetre by centimetre? That gap now is about 8 or 9 metres, and he just cannot live with them. And the pace at the front, I think, is winding up imperceptibly. It's just gradually picking up. Ayale and Alame are there, right behind Awani of Italy. These 3 now 15 metres ahead of Teferi. His bolted shot, I don't think we're going to see him get back towards the medals now. But can Awani become the 8th Italian in history to take European marathon gold? He's driving on here, we're down to 2. And Awani working so hard here on this slight upslope. This is a tough section. 1 Israeli to go for him to get gold. He's put 2 of the 3 behind him, but this looks like a dominant stride out in the last 150 metres from Ayale. Gashau Ayale now, looking so strong. The 28-year-old is one of the quickest in the race with 2:04.53 from Seville. Can Awani get back to him? This is a battle of wills rather than a physical battle now, because he's so determined, Ayale, here to take the first ever gold for Israel in the marathon. And Ayale goes past him. Boy, oh boy, did the Israeli misjudge it here? It is going to be gold. It's going to be glorious, glittering Italian gold here on the streets of Leuven. He's not going to be caught now. Wow. Ilias Awani from Italy. Look at the crowd roaring him on. The pack of Ethiopians, former Ethiopians, Israelis, of course, on this day. He has put behind him, and this is going to be gold for Awani. No doubt about it. 9th in the European Championships in 22. First today here in Leuven. Quite supreme. 2:09.05. I got his unofficial winning time. It matters not. When you've got a gold medal, that is everything. Fabulous from Teferi to take that silver medal. Ayale takes the silver, rather. Teferi, the bronze.
Well, an excellent run from the Italian. The Italian team have hurdled the stands here and brought the Italian flag onto the finish line. He's straight into the crowd, Ayale.
Wow.
The 2nd Italian gold of the day, and just look how much it means. He kisses the floor. A superb victory, and one that was just expertly judged once again. Biding his time, he was looking around. It wasn't a sign of weakness, though.
And George James coming through now. And the time just outside 2:10. It's another massive personal best for the Briton. What a run from him. That's 5th. I think George James has come home for Great Britain. What a run. His inaugural major championship run. His 3rd marathon of his life, and a massive personal best. And that trip to Bogota, Colombia, all worthwhile. Özbilen, he suffered in the closing stages. One of the 2 Özbilens from Turkey. İlham Tanui Özbilen 7th. And the Spanish athlete there, Chakir, coming home in 8th place.
Well, he was so reserved during the race, Ilias Awani, and now he's letting it all out. Everything that has been stored up for the last 26.2 miles, and still going back and forth, up and down the finishing straight, embracing everyone. He's picked up 2 Italian flags.
Pinto of Portugal coming home for 9th place. And great running here from Gondouin, in front of Bulvan, rather, in front of the home crowd. The gaps really did open up in the last few kilometres. These fellas some way down, 2:11.14 on the clock now. As Pinto of Portugal comes home for 9th place. I make it. Look at the celebrations from Awani, and quite rightly so. Pinto making the top 10 at a European Championships. 2:11.23. He's about 5 seconds outside his lifetime best there of 2:11.23. I've got him at about 2:11.28. And what a run there from Dorian Bulvan. That is a huge personal best for him. 2:11.42. I got it. That's a personal best by around 45 seconds.
He's really feeling it as well, that hamstring seizing up just as he was coming towards the line, managing to limp his way over, picks up the home flag, and will welcome his teammate as well, De Bock, over the line just outside 2:12.
Yeah, I got De Bock at about 2:12.03, and that's in 12th place.
Well, those celebrations aren't going to end, are they?
Do you think it's coincidence that the Spanish and the Italians, with their glorious climates, well, this was the finishing form of the eventual champion, Ilias Ioani of Italy, the 29-year-old. He's a 2:06 performer at his best. Today, storming to victory in such magnificent fashion. There it is, Ilias Ioani, European champion, 2:09.05, just 3 seconds better in the sprint than Nagasha Ayale of Israel. But look at that packing from the Israelis. Third place, the bronze for Teferi, fourth for Alami. What a team result that is for Israel, 2:34. They've won the team race hands down. George James, brilliant run from the Briton, 2:10.10, the only Briton who came here to race in the marathon distance, in fifth place, a massive personal best for him.
Hi, I'm Carlos Mayo. Sign up now to the European Athletics YouTube channel.